Bit of a wild situation here in the Bills-Ravens game. So here's the play. I'm going to pause it right here so this is the situation. That was an incomplete pass on 3rd and 2. So 4th and 2 was about to come up. And for the Bills, who are, at their own 47-ish yard line, it's probably a good idea to go for it, currently down 21-3. In fact, they're even willing to call a timeout here to try and preserve time because they want to go for it on a 4th down and 2. But here's where things get a little bit weird. Marlon Humphrey, you see him sitting down. Sean McDermott notices this. So while he tried to call a timeout, he then notifies the refs, hey, wait, he's down. This should be an injury timeout. This shouldn't be charged to us. And that's correct. If both teams try to call a timeout at the same time, it goes to whoever called it first. Technically, this is an injury timeout called before McDermott called it. So therefore, the Ravens are the ones who get charged with a timeout. Okay, whatever. No big deal. So now we go ahead into the 4th down and 2 situations, and, I don't know exactly what it is, I don't really see anything here, but for whatever reason, I think the Ravens defensive coordinator was the one who didn't love what he sees. Because you see that it's announced that there's a timeout called, and we're all thinking, okay, sure, Buffalo called a timeout, but this is actually the Ravens who called this timeout, which, of course, you can't do. You can't call 2 timeouts in the same stoppage. I want to go over to this angle. This is really going to show, I think, what happens. So you see John Harbaugh getting ready to call this timeout. He calls the timeout and then immediately looks over to Zach Orr, the defensive coordinator, and he says, I can't call the timeout. Very clearly kind of upset about that sequence. And here's what I think happened. This is total speculation. It looks to me like Zach Orr says, hey, I don't love this, call a timeout. Harbaugh does it without thinking, and then kind of immediately after making the mistake says, what did I just do? That's now a penalty. The official's supposed to ignore Harbaugh, in which case it wouldn't have been a penalty. That's usually how it works. But if the official screws up and gives them a timeout anyway, that results in a 5-yard penalty. The Bills then convert on the 4th down without having to run a play. Luckily for Baltimore, there was a dropped long Keon Coleman pass that allowed the Ravens to get off the field anyway. No harm, no foul. They end up forcing a punt shortly after this, but still kind of a wild sequence, so I thought it was an interesting breakdown.